Hey, what's going on, everybody? James here, your Abx-Audiophile. I hope you are having a fantastic day today, and welcome to the show. So today, I am going to show you guys how to build a speaker that will rival, if not outperform, speakers that cost over $10,000. Don't believe me? Stay tuned. All right, so I know everybody likes dynamics, everybody likes detail, everybody likes good punchy bass, everybody likes all of these things that us as audiophiles seek, this holy grail of just beautiful sound, soundstage, good bass, good mids, vocal presentation, tight focus, good placement and separation in the soundstage, layering, all of these things that we talk about all the time. But one thing that we do know is that it costs a lot of money. Well, I am here to tell you through personal experience, and you've kind of seen a couple of my videos before, I'm here to tell you how to get that for under $1,000, and it'll blow your mind. All right, so of course, what I'm talking about is the open baffle speaker. And if you've watched my channel or you followed along in the Discord over the previous few months, you've seen us working on our group build. We have a group designed and built open baffle speaker that we've been working on. We work with Dolce Audio, Eminence, just some really, really cool folks. Terry, the owner of Dolce Audio, has been helping us and guiding us through these design stages on how to kind of build these things. He's designing and working with Eminence on the speakers. And so today, I'm going to walk you guys through what the process that I went through on how to build this open baffle speaker that will knock the shit out of some speakers that cost well over $10,000. And there are many people in our Discord who have actually experienced it. When I went to Axpona, when I went to the Pacific Audio Fest just last weekend, I heard many systems that did not even get close to what these open baffles do for much more than $10,000. So I'm going to walk you through it. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to jump over here, and I'm going to share how to kind of build this thing and walk you through some of the stuff. So here I am. This is like 6 in the morning. I decided I'm going to go build this baffle. We've been talking about it and designing it forever, so I'm going to go build it. So here I am, 6 a.m. at Home Depot. Just running in blind. I'm just going to figure it out. We're going to make it happen. So what do we look for? We're looking for the baffle, right? So our thought is use something cheap. This idea was to make this thing as cheap as possible. So let's find not only as cheap as possible, but effective, and good quality, but easy to build. So what we chose was a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of 3/4 inch birch plywood. Plenty thick, plenty rigid, finished grade, so it looks really nice. I'll show you guys that. $38 a piece for these baffles, and they're pre-cut already to 2 foot by 4 foot. So we've got our width, we got our height. We don't even have to make a cut here. So again, staying very, very simple, very, very easy. We've got nice finished grade. We pick up 2 pieces of it. 70 some bucks right there, right? I think we bought all the material for this baffle for like $200 for both baffles. So we got our plywood. Then how are we going to stand this thing up? Okay, well, let's just go over to the shelving section. Let's pick up some simple brackets, $6 a piece, a couple handles so that we can kind of grab these things and move them around. Here's kind of the thought. You can see me here. I'm just in the shelving section. I'm kind of trying to decide, which ones I want to go with, which ones kind of work best. You can see them in the background there. They were like $6.30 a piece. I liked this one because it had kind of a 3-screw assembly and a little bit of cool look to it. It's got a little bit of radius there on the bracket. So we chose that guy. Again, just a little closer pickup. We did kind of compare some different plywoods, so you can get, different finishes if you want a different look. All about $40 a piece for the baffle, so $80 total, and you need 2 of them. We were kind of just looking at grains. You're gonna need a router. You don't need a router, I guess. You could cut it with the hole with a jigsaw, because at some point you got to cut a hole for a speaker. I wanted to rear mount my speakers, so I needed a router that was going to make a nice precision cut, because it was going to be an exposed cut rather than face mounting the speaker. If you're going to face mount the speaker, just cut it with a jigsaw. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to fit, and the screws have to be able to screw down. I think we got the one in the back left. I think it was like $90 for that router. So if you don't have a router, there you go, 90 bucks. Again, we were just trying to go super, super ultra budget. I had to go get some screws, so I got a box of screws, and then we were trying to decide, okay, well, what kind of foot do we want to use? How do we want to stand this thing up? And so what we found was a 4-foot long red cedar stair tread. So all we have to do is cut this in half, and it's automatically the width of our baffles, 2 feet. So it's a 4-foot tread. We're just going to cut it in half. You could even do it with a handsaw if you wanted to. So again, we're trying to keep this thing ultra budget, ultra simple. I got some like $3 clamps, $5 clamps, so that I could kind of hold this thing together when I was building it. Then I wanted some bracing. I didn't know at the time that the speaker would kind of brace the baffle enough. But at the time, I thought, okay, well, I better get some bracing. So what do? I go over and I just get some 1x1, like pine or whiteboard or whatever. I think it was like $8 a piece, or maybe it was $3 a piece or something for those little 2-footers there. Again, you can get them in 4-foot lengths. So they were the length of the baffle. So I was kind of testing out some stuff here. I ended up going with just 4-foot sticks though. So it was already cut. I didn't even have to cut them. I just screwed them to the sides of the baffle, and there's my bracing. At one point, you might think about through bolting the speakers. You can get cheap little 1/4-inch bolts, whatever length you need, super cheap, 30, 40, 50 cents a piece. So here we go. I got my whole thing. I got my 2 baffles. I've got my 1 stair tread that I'm going to cut in half, and that's going to be the foot for each baffle. I've got my 2 sticks of 8-foot 1x1, so all I got to do is cut those in half, and then that'll run up 2 sides. I think we got out of there for under 200 bucks for all this baffle stuff. We got it home, looking really good. There's the stair tread. Here's my little humble shop that I work out of. Nothing spectacular. I just got some random, just minimal tooling in here. Again, cut the stair tread in half directly to 2 feet. Done deal. Bada bing, lay it out. I got my little laser showing there. Make sure you account for the width of the blade. Kind of split the blade in the middle so you don't have one that's like 1/8 of an inch less and one is 1/8 of an inch longer. So make sure you cut it directly in half. Then you can see right there, I just got these little wood screws. I'm going to screw the baffle or the brackets to the leg. We're going to mount the baffle to it. You can see what we got going on there. Now we got the baffle mounted. At the end of the day, there's kind of a little side shot what we got going on. Simple, 6 screws per bracket. No big deal. Nothing super fancy. There we got it standing up. I bought these little teeny L brackets just to kind of keep that front from maybe bowing or having a little space in it. So I wanted the baffle kind of tight. So I think I picked those up for like 60 cents. And again, we just screwed those in place. There you go. You can see, and you can see the router I got in the back there. That's that brand new router. Just a simple screw gun. And there's kind of where we're finished. You can see I kind of started laying out, thinking about where I might want the holes. One of the really cool things about that stair tread was that it allowed us to have a bullnose corner on it. So you can see right there, it's already pre-rounded. So you'll see later kind of in the video, it looks really, really cool. Okay, so we've got the base mounted to it now. There's kind of the front view. You can see it kind of looks really neat. We got to kind of take it. I had laid out the hole before because I kind of knew where I wanted it to be, but then I thought, well, I better take these inside and kind of set them up and see kind of exactly where I want the hole to be if it's going to work. I knew that I wanted to kind of try to maintain ear level, and I'll talk about that, why I did that later. So here you can see the baffles. They're all completed. I figured out where I wanted the hole. You can see I installed the bracing. Again, all I did was cut those things in half, and then they're the right length for the baffles there. So you just screw them to the side. My intention there was to give it a little bit of rigidity. I don't think that you need those in hindsight because once you mount your speakers in there, they become pretty darn rigid. And then you can see I put a little handle on there just so if I needed to move them around, it was a little bit easier. I think in hindsight, I would put, I think you can see my cursor, I would put a handle here and here. So put one on each side, just right between these two screws, because it's easier to kind of reach around and pick it up that way. So that's something to think about. So there you can see we've got that kind of dialed in. Again, another picture of just that nice little bull nose there. You can see my lawnmower stuff. I'm just out in the old yard shop, you know. So we kind of figured out where our holes need to be. So just figure out the radius of your driver, and you don't have to. If you're going to front mount it, make sure you cut it big enough that it fits in there. If you're going to rear mount it, you can keep it just a little bit tighter so that your screws don't poke through, and I'll kind of show that later, because you really want to hear this, because if you mess this up, this could be a bad deal, and I learned the lesson the hard way. So again, there's our router. We're getting ready to rock and roll with the cut. We're just using like a plunger bit, and it'll just cut the hole. If you've never cut a hole with a router before, it can be a little bit intimidating. So you just buy the kit. It comes with these bits. I think that's just like a 1/4-inch bit. It's just basically a cutter bit. Oh, here's where you can see I kind of brought them inside, kind of figuring out where I wanted the driver. So I wanted the center of the driver to end up with my ear, because we're running, as you'll see later, I'll show you kind of all the speakers and stuff and how we did that. We're running a coaxial driver, so it's got a compression horn tweeter mounted to the back of it. So I wanted to kind of be on axis with it. So I put them at the height kind of my ear, pretty close. I think it was a little bit lower, but I couldn't go exactly to my ear, because then it wouldn't leave enough room up here. It kind of would make this area thin a little bit. So as you see, when we go through this, I'll show you guys. And there I kind of just drew a picture of, yeah, it probably looks about right. Okay, so I've got the hole laid out. Now you see how much distance I left here. If I would have went with ear level, I would have either had to make my baffles taller, or have this amount of wood in between the hole and the end of the baffle less. And I really didn't want that, because I wanted to keep that like structural integrity there. So I compromised, and I just put the speaker a little bit lower. You can see I've got the dimension of the driver laid out here. I just used a compass and a pencil and made that cut. For your baffle, I didn't want to buy one of those like special brackets that you have to get for, to mount to your router. You can buy them, but they're a little bit of money. And I was trying to keep this thing super cheap. So I just took a little piece of wood I had at my house. And you can see right here, I just drilled holes in it and then countersunk it and then bolted it to my router. And then I measured from the outside of the router bit to the center of what I want my hole to be. And then I just put a screw right here. So now I just made it so I can just spin this thing around. And you can see it's supported by a piece of wood underneath. And then you just set the depth of your router bit so that it goes through the wood, but not too much into the base wood that's supporting it. And then you just rotate that thing around and you've got a perfect hole. So it worked really, really well. There you go. You can see I got the hole cut. We got the piece out. I've got the bracing in this photo, so I've already put kind of that side bracing, but you'll cut your hole before you do that. And then you can see that I routered this. I beveled this with the router. So after I cut the hole, because I'm rear mounting the speaker, right? So I want that wood. I don't want that square edge on there, because I want it to kind of act as a waveguide. So I beveled that out at a 45 degree just with another router bit. It was super simple. I didn't go all the way to the back of the baffle because I didn't want it to be a knife point. So I just did about 2/3 of the way through, about a 1/2 inch through the plywood. I beveled it at a 45 degree angle. And then I 1/4 inch rounded the backside just to keep from having that sharp edge. Here you can see we've got them inside. They're all built now. We've got the baffles up. You can see it, they look really, really nice. You got that nice bull nose poking out there in the front of the baffle at the floor. We've got a nice flared opening for our drivers to be mounted in. They're just looking really, really nice right there. So there's just a couple other photos of the baffle. Now we put the Dolce Audio coaxial driver in it. If you want to kind of get in on those speakers, they're not available anymore. These are the older ones. I think they were originally like a Hawthorne Audio Silver Iris or something like that. Just a beautiful, beautiful speaker. But La Dolce Audio does have new drivers out that are going to be better than these, and they're available in our Discord. So make sure you check out the links there, get in the Discord, and be a part of this thing. So at this point, we were just kind of making it a single driver. We just kind of wanted to see how things would be. You'll notice this is really thin. So this is a high sensitivity 15-inch driver. I think they're like 96 or 97 dB sensitive. This dust cap is actually transparent because we have a tweeter mounted to the back of it, and I'll show you guys that in just a little bit. Here's kind of what I was telling you about being careful about beveling this and your screws. You might be able to see right there, there's a little black dot. That's because when I beveled this and then I drilled through, the screw is too close to the edge, so it kind of poked through, and even some wood broke off here. So make your holes just a little bit tighter so that your screws don't get into that beveled area and poke through. So you could actually, make this hole maybe, a half inch less than kind of it is right now to do that. Or you just cut the hole big enough and face mount them. You don't have to worry about any of this. But I wanted to look at the bevel. So we did compare to some of the cane tucks, and I had the cane tuck baffles before with the F15s in there. And that's why I built my baffles the way I built them, because after auditioning those things, the sound stage was so low to the ground and so short that it was just horrible. I ended up putting the cane tucks up on chairs just to get that sound stage right. So I knew without any doubt that I wanted my speakers and my baffles to be tall and a full-bodied baffle, man. I wanted a nice big face on that thing. And it worked out. It really worked out. There we got the F15s in the baffle. Sounded absolutely fantastic. There you can see kind of where the wood chipped through because it kind of got too close to the thing. So again, you can see right here, I screwed right here and it like busted a little piece out. So we ended up puttying that up. I mean, it's just wood. You can do what you want. But so there's how that looks like. Here's the back of it with the driver actually installed. Here you can see, and this is Terry from La Dolce Audio's design. This is the original Hawthorne Audio Silver Iris driver with the crossover that was made, and then the compression horn tweeter basically mounted to the back. Now, if you notice this compression horn tweeter, it's got the back removed. If you buy it like this, it's not like this. This is a La Dolce Audio modification. We'll talk about that when we get a little further. Okay, so kind of getting into, at this point, we're kind of messing with simple crossovers. So you can see that I've got the stock crossover disassembled because Terry from La Dolce Audio started talking to us about just using simple cap and chokes with the speakers and not even really having a crossover assembly. And so we really started to mess with just single caps. We went with like a 1.1, a 3.3, and like a 5.8 on the value of the cap. And we experimented just straight from the amplifier, from the speaker wire into here, and not really using a crossover. And so we'll kind of get into more detail there. We kind of messed with different tweeters. That's the JBL 2414H1. You can get that one super cheap on Amazon. Again, you can get this one here that Terry modified. This is the Eminence ASD 1001, I believe. I think they're like $20 or something. And these aren't much more expensive. Here we messed with a Celestion CDX1, I believe. I think this was like $100 a pair. And so, you can just kind of put whatever kind of tweeter you want on there. You got to get some brackets to kind of hold them on. And what that wood shim does is it's a phase shim, as Terry explains it. So it kind of puts adjusts the phase between the compression horn tweeter and the actual driver. And it kind of, what it does at the end of the day, it just kind of softens up and sweetens up the treble a little bit. You don't have to use the shim. You can just put the tweeters right into the back of the speaker. They can just screw right in there. Makes that treble a little bit more forward, a little bit more apparent, a little bit brighter maybe. just depending on what you're doing. So at this point, we started to kind of really mess around with values. You can see we implemented a level pad, an L pad into this thing. And the L pad is just controlling the tweeter. So what that allows us to do, it allows us to run that 15-inch driver in full range. And then we just put a simple cap on the tweeter, and then we put a L pad there, and now we can adjust the level of that tweeter to blend to how we want to have this thing sound. Ultra versatile speaker. Okay, so we're kind of getting into that. We've got the baffle built. You guys have seen that. We've got the speaker mounted. We've gone over kind of some different crossover options, some things that we experimented with. We found that the modified Eminence ASD 101 with a 3.3 cap on there, a 3.3 UF cap on there, was the sweet spot for that speaker. And then we kind of started to take some measurements, and as everybody knows, open baffles, they always lack a little bit of that bass. You know, it's more of a natural bass. It's a little bit less boomy. It's a little bit more tight. You know, it can leave you kind of wanting a subwoofer. And so we did pair some subwoofers with them. I really didn't like it that much. So then we started to talk about, okay, well, let's go to kind of a three-way setup, and let's put a bass driver in this thing. So after we kind of got all this stuff set up, that's kind of the final product right there at the end of the day, with the ASD 101 tweeter, phase shim, 15-inch coaxial driver, crossover. You'll see that the baffles are mounted a little bit forward on the bases. So I put a little concrete block back there just to kind of keep them from tipping forward. Later on down the line, I actually moved the baffle back about 4 inches to the center, almost center of the foot of the baffle, and they were much more stable. So that's something to think about there. Again, there's just some different drivers. So there's the ASD 101. I'll kind of go through how Terry modifies this, and you can get them stock or modified. I'll run you guys through that. Again, there's the L pad. We're kind of messing around with some stuff, but really interesting how you can just blend that compression driver. If you feel like your speaker's a little bit too bright, you just get up there and you turn that thing down a little bit. If you want a little bit more top end sparkle and air, you just get up and turn it up a little bit. So you can really make that speaker versatile. And we wanted to kind of build it this way so that everybody, when they built it, they could then tailor it to their sound rather than kind of define what the crossover was going to look like. Here's some of the different caps and stuff that we messed with, and chokes to kind of get the different ranges. We ended up putting chokes on the large drivers to kind of have them let go of some of their high end and let that tweeter kind of do and blend them in. So we tried some different millihenries. We had some 10s, some 3s, and some 1.5s, and I'll kind of talk about what we ended up going with. Here's the bass driver that we ended up doing. We really try to keep things like super cheap. So this is a Harmony. It's an 18-inch bass driver. All the measurements looked pretty good for what we wanted to do, and I think it was like, I don't know, $100 and some for this driver. And again, it's just massive. Look at that thing. It's just absolutely massive. So now I got to go back to the drawing board and cut holes. We were talking in our Discord about, just cutting a straight hole and just letting the bass driver do its job. But we really started to discuss on how we could front load the bass driver, which would increase the sensitivity and give us a little bit better bass boost. So again, Terry from Dolce Audio, he kind of did some mathematical measurements. We decided that we were going to do a horizontal slot load, and I will show you what it looks like. You're going to see it in just a second. So there it is. We've got it cut. We got our bass driver, and there is the slot load right there. I think it's like a 4.5 inch by 13 or some inch slot in the front of that baffle. And what that does is that gives us that extra sensitivity, gives us a little bit of boost on that bass driver, and it allows you just to perform a little bit better. So here I am just taking some measurements on the driver. in a full hole or loading, and so we did some measurements and kind of decided what we wanted to do. But you can see the process here. We did some open air measurements on the bass driver. Really did some good experimentation to make sure that we were kind of building this the right way, and that everything was going to be working out in the end. So there you go. There was kind of my, just put together setup, trying to take some measurements and do some really cool stuff. Here's the measurement. This is the open air measurement of that bass driver. So we see it's really good for what it is. I mean, we're damn near hitting all the way down to 31. And remember, this is open air. This is not even loaded yet. This is just sitting in my room. And we start to kind of roll off there about 500, but really it's almost pushing up to like 2K. It was really an impressive speaker. We were kind of excited. Once I put the 10 millihenry choke on it, you can see now we got a little bit more what we want. We're really pushing down to 30. We're really pushing down to 30. We got that nice little dB boost on the low end there. This is with the choke and in the baffle, and then we have a nice roll off starting about 500, 250, between 250 and 500, really starting to get out of the way of that other driver and letting it do its thing. So that's kind of where we ended up with the bass driver. So here you can see this is kind of finished product. We've got all the values, chokes, the L pads. These are in the room. We're in auditioning now. At the time I was using the R8 KT88s, gold lions, fanes. We've got the EverSolo here, and really just loving this speaker. Absolutely fantastic. So there it is in the current configuration right now. If you were to walk into my house today, that is how those baffles look, and they absolutely sound phenomenal. When I told you that you could build a speaker that would blow away speakers that were $10,000 or more, we just went to Pacific Audio Fest, and there was like 5 of us from our Discord there, 4 of us from our Discord there, and Kelly and I went to almost every single open baffle room. All the big brands, all the ones that you can think of. We listened to a pair that was like $5 grand, $7 grand. We listened to a pair that was like $9,500, and they were great, but they are not as good as these baffles. And we built these for under $1,000. What you're looking at right there is basically less than $1,000 in parts. I think those chokes cost me like $6 a piece. I think the cap was like $3.95. The drivers were, a couple $100. The baffles were $250 to build. I think to get the coaxial driver on top with the tweeters and everything is probably $400 or $500. I mean, we're right at $1,000 in everything here, and you've got a set of speakers. Look at these things, absolutely phenomenal. And here's our final measurement on that open baffle. That's with the 18-inch driver. 10 millihenry choke on that 18-inch front-loaded driver. On the 15-inch driver, we've got a 1.5 millihenry choke on it, and then I think we've got a 3.3 UF cap on the compression horn driver, a horn tweeter. And so you can see we're pushing well under 30 there before we even start to roll off. And this isn't an open baffle, and this is in-room measurement from my listening position. Nice little hump there on the mid-range, so we get all that nice vocal sparkle. Little teeny dip there between 4 and 8, kind of right at that 8K. And then we get that little teeny bump right at 16, and it just adds so much nice little air and openness to it. It's just an absolutely phenomenal sound. So, I mean, those measurements are pretty darn insane, if I do not say so myself. And there, it's just an absolutely fantastic speaker. So that is kind of the overall build, the walkthrough of kind of how we put that thing together. We've got about 4 or 5 people in our Discord right now that are kind of preparing to build those things. I've kind of done the prototype. That was the original prototype kind of deal that we were working through. I'll run you through real quick on. Let me get to my photos here. On that modification of that tweeter that we were talking about, because I want to kind of show you how to do that. So let's jump into that real quick. I'll run you guys through here. So here's the 3 different tweeters that we auditioned when we were designing this thing. You can see the Celestion, the JBL, and the Eminence ASD 1001. We've got the L pad, some other stuff, just kind of showing you differences kind of on what we did. Here's the finished product. So when Terry's done modifying this thing, basically all he does is shave the back off of the compression horn tweeter to expose that diaphragm. So here's what you get when you buy them stock. They look just like that. So basically what Terry does is he machines that down, and you can see he's starting to expose. You know, it looks like just a dome tweeter on the backside. So you kind of open that back up. There's kind of before and after, showing you some of the processes. There's kind of your diaphragm inside there. You want to make sure you don't mess that up. So at the end of the day, you have that long tube that comes down and fires the high trebles and stuff through the front of the driver. But now you got this like exposed dome tweeter, kind of giving you some ambiance, you know, some ambient vibrations coming out of the back of the baffle, and it just really makes for a beautiful sound, sweetens things up. A little bit of epoxy and screen in there. He's kind of grinding the things down, you know, don't hurt your fingers kind of thing. Yeah, and so that's the and he sells those either modified or not modified, so you can get them from Dolce Audio however you want. I haven't heard the unmodified version. I just took his word for it that the wooden phase shim with that ASD 1001 with the modified back, and I'll tell you, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it just adds to the sound stage. You just get this beautiful, beautiful sound. What did we do next? Oh, we went into build number 2. So once we built those come on, focus, would you? Don't be losing focus on me. Okay, sorry about that. I had to get my focus right. So once we decided and built that baffle, I thought, okay, well, not everybody's going to want a 4 foot by 2 foot massive baffle in their room. So let's build a smaller one. And I wanted to upgrade the quality of it a little bit. So I went out and I looked at the 1.5" butcher block countertop, which we ended up going with. You can get it kind of, you know, with the knots and stuff in it, or you can get it kind of finished grade, whichever one. We went with the finished grade one. Again, I made these much smaller. I bought that countertop and I just basically cut it in half. So I think the baffles were like 25 inches wide by 36 or 34, and maybe they were 37 inches tall, so almost a foot shorter. I just cut them right in half. Again, super simple. I want to keep everything cheap, simple. I think I paid like $175 or $200 for this countertop. I just simply cut it in half with a skill saw. There you go. Just super simple. The size comparison to the old baffle. So now these have a little bit better of a wife acceptance factor. Again, I used my cheap little bracket to cut my hole. And then there they are compared to the old ones. Super, super simple. And there they're laying side by side. So again, I just unscrewed the feet that I had on my other baffles. And you can see I moved them back this time. They're not as far forward as they were before. And then I just screwed everything back together. I rear mounted the driver, cut the same size hole, and we set them up and went to work. And we used the same kind of crossover stuff that we were using. You can see all the different chokes and stuff right there. We didn't change much because we knew we already worked with that Dolce Audio driver and the Eminence tweeter. So we just went with simple. There it is right there. They absolutely sounded beautiful. Here's the measurements on those. You can see that we don't quite get as much bass. We're rolling off at about, I don't know, right at about 60. We start to kind of roll off pretty good. But again, we got a really nice flat response. We got that little bump at 16K. Gives us that real nice airiness that we like. And it was a beautiful speaker. But I'm going to tell you guys something. I was not as impressed. You know, the sound stage collapsed a little bit. I don't know what it is about that larger baffle, but we just couldn't get that smaller baffle to sound as good. So I think I'm going to try to flare that speaker opening and see if I can work with that a little bit. But Kelly even came over and auditioned the second version of that baffle, and it was not as good. So that simple plywood, 4 foot high, 2 foot wide, 15-inch driver, 18-inch bass driver. What an absolute What an absolute performer. I have not had anything that really makes me want to take it off of the stand. I'm auditioning a set of $3,000 MarkAudio Cesti T towers right now, and they are absolutely phenomenal. But I still long for my baffles to get back in there. I'm telling you guys, for under $1,000, you have to build these things and experience it. And the nice thing about these baffles is you're not bound by amplifier. You know, you can run these things off 6 watts, 5 watts of tubes. You know, I put my Emotiva XPA amp on them and just run the hell out of them. Or I can drop Terry's Dolce audio, you know, 3.5, 4.5 watt tube amp on there, and they sound absolutely magical. So it's a really cool project. I just wanted to kind of come out to you guys and show you the process of what that build looked like. I'll kind of chapter up the video so you can get to the sections you want. But hey, if you guys didn't know, we're the world's only 100% charity reviewer. 100% of our proceeds go directly to youth musical programs across the country. We just made YouTube partners, so make sure you join. $4.99 a month. It all goes to charity. Hit that subscribe button. Check out the links in the chat. Get into our Discord. Be part of this Baffle build, and we're just going to keep getting better and doing more. Appreciate all you guys. Have a fantastic day.